The thing that I found most interesting is the talk about values and like how much values begin to inform your identity, and basically your values are essentially who you are.
Yes.
Take us into that. What does it mean? And then how much malleability is there in values?
Sure. So my focus in my work has always been value focused. I feel like in the self-help and self-development world, there's so much focus on success, you know, getting ahead in your career, starting a business, making more money, having better relationships, but nobody's actually standing back and defining what success is. Like, is our definition of success valuable or not? And I think especially in today's, you know, crazy internet world where we're exposed to everything, deciding what we're choosing to define as success is a more important question than ever before. So that's kind of what got me started on the whole value question in general. And then when I started investigating it and doing a lot of research and writing about it, I started to discover that, like, basically, you know, if you think of like how you define a person in general, as humans, we tend to define people by their choices, by their actions. But then what motivates their actions? Well, often it's how they feel. And then what motivates how they feel about certain things, and it's their perception of what's valuable and what's not. And so that's kind of how I drilled down to this idea that essentially what we are is just an aggregation of what we choose to value in this world. If I value money more than anything else, that will come to define me through my actions, my behaviors, what I invest my time and attention into. If I value family, that will define who I am, because everything else will flow from that.
Yeah, the thing that I find interesting about values is people often act as if they are empirical truths, like money is valuable or family is valuable, and they don't realize that it was a choice often handed to them by the way they grew up, their parents, what their parents instilled in them. And so stepping back and recognizing that all of this is a choice, that you can consciously decide what you're going to value.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear your thoughts on how the process works of deciding to value something. So if somebody finds themselves in a place where they feel totally fucked up, they don't like who they are, and they buy into this notion that, okay, a lot of this is being driven by values, how do they actually change that?
Yeah. It's funny because I'm not a huge fan of a lot of like kind of the typical self-help tropes, but the answer to this question I think is kind of classic visualization, but it's not the visualization that we usually hear about. So what I talk about in the book is that like, let's say I'm just really superficial and I value money more than anything. Like, I've got like a fleet of yachts and it's all I care about, you know? And then something happens in my life and I realize that that's pretty superficial. I should like grow up a bit and, you know, value something else. And it's not as simple as just deciding. Like, we've all had that experience in our lives where we wish we cared about something that we don't, or vice versa. We wish we didn't care about something that we do, and you can't just stop. And so the process that I describe in the book is that essentially before you can commit to a new value, you kind of have to like try them on. Like it's like going to a store and trying on a bunch of pairs of clothes. And the way you try on a new value is you need to sit down and visualize. And you can even write it out if you want. But it's like, let's say all I care about is my fleet of boats, and I want to try on a new value, like charity or something. I have to sit down and start asking myself, what would it mean for my life? What would it mean for me as a person if I didn't value those boats anymore? And that's a very hard question. It really messes us up because we realize that a lot of our relationships would probably fall apart. A lot of our business commitments would probably fall apart. A lot of our understanding of ourselves would be shaken up or questioned. And it's a very difficult thing to ask. And so, you know, most of the times when you see visualization taught in the self-help industry, it's like they take a guy who wants a fleet of boats and they say, visualize a fleet of boats. Now go get it. And it's like, no. What you need to do is take a guy who wants a fleet of boats and say, visualize not wanting a fleet of boats. What would that say about you? Who would you be if that thing you always desired was not your desire anymore?